So we're live. This one's been a long time coming. How long have we known each other for now?
Oh God, I don't know. Is it nearly 3 years?
Yeah, I reckon so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I've probably been in Move. I think I dipped into Move like just after COVID,
Maybe
which was 5 years ago.
Maybe it's longer then.
Maybe it's longer. Yeah. We worked together in some capacity, in some form, for like 3 years. Definitely.
Yeah.
So Maria is probably one of the most well-known businesswomen on the Wirral, I reckon.
Oh, I wish.
And now I reckon so. We've worked together with James. We've been doing the content for James. So there's probably going to be a large proportion of people in my audience who already know who you are.
Okay.
But for anyone who may not know who you are, in the immortal words of Cilla Black, what's your name and where do you come from?
I'm Maria Challis and I'm from Heswall on the Wirral, and I have a business called James Kitchens based in West Kirby.
Nice. And you were originally from Heswall?
I'm not originally from Heswall, no, although I've lived up here 30 years now, so I moved up when I was 20. So I'm originally I was born in Chesington in Surrey.
Yeah, keep going.
And my parents then moved to Maidstone in Kent, which is where a lot of my family is still now.
I love it. What made you move up originally?
My husband got a job with a double glazing company that we had, or I was still working for at the time, and he'd gone off to set off his own double glazing company in Maidstone, and he got headhunted by a company called Allerton Glass. Not Allington Glass to be confused with Allerton Glass, which was based all over the country. Yes. And he was asked to be a branch manager in Bromborough on this industrial estate.
Really?
Yeah.
See, that's such
well, when I say it's Old Hall Industrial Estate, but it's right next door.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So we call it the Croft Business Park because technically it is the Croft Business Park, but actually within the Croft Business Park, there's actually 4 different parks.
Yeah. So
there's the Lamina Enterprise Park, the Lake Enterprise Park we're on now, Old Hall Enterprise Park, and the Croft.
Yeah.
And we mentioned before, there's 152 businesses here alone.
I know,
which is crazy to think, really. And with probably like an average, staff count of 20 plus, doing a couple of million a year maybe. Anyway, that just blows my mind that amount of businesses on our doorstep.
Because it seems it's such a small area, you don't consider it to be there. But I remember when we moved up here, and obviously when Paul got offered the job, they offered me a job because I was still in the company. So I got a promotion as well, which was bonus. So he went directly to Bromborough, to Old Hall. I went to Flint, North Wales, where their head office was. And that's why we were up here, and we thought no commitments, no kids, nothing. So we weren't actually married or anything at that point, and just thought...
And how old were you at this point?
I was 20.
So
my husband, my then boyfriend, was 23.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Funny you say that, because Flint and D-side is where I kind of started this trail of thought behind. There's actually business literally on our doorstep that can be done. And D-side Business Park and Flint Business Park do a really, really good job of, I wouldn't even call it networking, but exchanging business between businesses literally on the doorstep.
Oh, yeah.
Within, 50 metres of them?
Yeah.
And we just don't do that here. And it just blows my mind that we don't. So,
but there's probably nobody pushing that.
Yeah. So I'm taking it upon myself to, a one-man crusade to bring these businesses together. So if you're watching this...
Connect now.
Connect now, yeah. Fill the form in, get on the waiting list. So to dive into kitchens a little bit then. You haven't been in kitchens your whole life, have you?
No.
Tell me a little about that.
No, not at all. So started off in double glazing and continued that when it got taken over by Magnet, which obviously does do kitchens. So my only little connection there is we had a Magnet kitchen done, obviously, because we both worked for the company. And then actually the company failed because it got too big, because the brand was so massive. The actual business itself couldn't sustain it. They had a massive factory in Flint, but it couldn't sustain. Who knew how massive, as Magnet were at the time, that we were just going to go boom like that, and the infrastructure couldn't cope. And so what ended up happening is it ended up failing because they were making so many mistakes. And that's often what can happen if you don't put the infrastructure in. And at that point, me and my husband, we had no control over that. But my husband was having to make a lot of redundancies. It didn't sit well with him. He didn't like it, although he was offered a seat on the board of directors, because at that point he was a national sales manager. I was pregnant with my daughter, and so he made me redundant. Great. So I got made redundant. But at that point, when he accepted the job and then he didn't, and they absolutely did not treat him very well and left him stranded literally in Keighley, North Yorkshire, with no car, no laptop, no phone, because they stripped him of it. They were that mad with him for refusing the job. And from there, we created our own double glazing company from home, literally just before I had my daughter. And that was in 2001. Wow. On Valentine's Day we incorporated, actually.
Wow, that's amazing. 2001,
and that was running for 15 years. And so after that, I'd sort of pretty much had enough. And also my staff members had been with me for so long, and they were pretty heavy hitters within my business, and they didn't want to see my vision. And I was battling them on a day-to-day basis, and I found that really, really hard. And really, with a lot of advice from my accountant, who is still my accountant, who is brilliant, and some other peers within my area and my partner, that advice was, they are not going to get on board with you, and it will fail because they won't get on board with you. And so I closed the business, and I was actually really relieved. I just closed it and thought, I don't want to do this anymore, and went and worked for an electrical wholesaler for 3.5 years, which I absolutely loved. I had two amazing bosses who really believed in me. And I suppose the only difficulty I had within that business is that I couldn't make my own decisions. I could make some decisions, but I couldn't make all my decisions. So I was then really hankering after having a bit of control, and my bosses were great. They gave me as much control as they could. And so obviously I was helping work with 15 branches across the Northwest, which I absolutely loved. But really I was desperate for managing something else.
Would you say you always had that entrepreneurial mindset?
I don't think I really thought about it before that, but at that point I realised, and I'd been speaking to my partner, and he was like, what do you want to do? And I said, I need more. And then what was happening at the time, actually my partner had been approached by the previous owners of James, and they wanted to retire, and the daughter, who was one of the partners, she was on a fourth child, and it was like, this is probably a really good time. So they'd approached my partner, who was already in kitchens, to say, do you want to buy it? And he was considering that, and then he approached me and said, I think this would be good for you.
Love it.
Because it's small enough to manage, and I said, I know nothing about kitchens. Well, and he said, yeah, but you know how to run a business. You've had two previous businesses. You know how to do it. Yeah. He said, and I will be there to support you.
Yeah. And did you find that an easy transition?
I found it easier than I thought, because in actual fact, I needed to just look at it as a business. I didn't need to look at it as the product. Yeah. That came separately, and I made no bones about it to everybody. I said to her, I'm not a designer. I'm not pretending that I've got years of history, but what I do know is how to make it work. It was actually a lot more challenging than I thought it would be. There were a lot of things that we weren't expecting at all. So that was a little bit of a shock to the system, because I thought I'd just be able to go in and just continue it and then bring my ideas in slowly. Yeah. But actually, as it happened, I didn't realise that in order for me to be able to run it my way, I was going to have to make a lot of changes. And I hadn't thought about that. Yeah. I really hadn't. Yeah. So I think that was the biggest challenge I had.
I love that. It's always interesting to me, because I've been made redundant 3 times in my life, and I'm 38 now. So I kind of, and the first being in 2008, when I was like 22, something like that. Mm-hmm. And I remember, kind of from a young age, when you get a drilled into you, get a job, get a good job, 9 to 5 in an office. Like I was like doing architecture for a fairly big housing company, and I realised quickly at that point, especially after the second redundancy, that it wasn't that safe, actually. So I didn't have an entrepreneurial mindset at all. I was ambitious and I wanted to do well.
But is not ambition maybe part of being entrepreneurial?
Well, I just
can't have one without the
I
other.
just kind of thought, it's like, you know, what's safer, having a 9 to 5 or just doing it myself? And, you know, if I make the mistakes, then it's all me anyway.
And therein lies the birth of an entrepreneur.
Literally, yeah. So I kind of had nothing to lose in a way. Like, it was always like back against the wall. Like, right, I'm in the shit. Right, I've lost my job.
Yeah.
I've got no money. What do I do? And that's when I got into fitness. And my mum and dad at the time were like, you know, you've been doing 6 years of architecture. What are you doing going to the gym?
It's like total polar opposites.
Like, but there were no jobs.
Yeah.
There were no jobs in construction. Yeah. And they would have, like the old school mindset of just get a job, you know, get a good wage, nice safety. And what I quickly realised was it's a lot harder work doing it yourself, but more rewarding, more purposeful, doing the work how you think it should be done, in line with like your values and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And then it was kind of like in my head, it was safer because
you were in control of it.
Because I was in control of it.
I mean, let's face it. I think for all entrepreneurs, we are a little bit of control freaky people.
Yeah.
You know, in the fact that, you know, we have a desire and a direction. We don't necessarily know where all the pieces go yet, but we have that desire to want to be able to do it for ourselves and have that ultimate control and have that say. And I think we touched on this when we spoke last Friday, in the fact that it's important to feel that your voice is heard.
Yeah.
And to feel empowered to have that safe space.
Yeah.
And we talk about that in Move every week. You know, when we have new visitors, we talk about having that safe space to be able to really, you know, delve into. Yes, it is attached to feelings. It always is, because you're passionate about it. And if you can't have passion without feeling, and with that comes along a lot of emotions. And I think we forget that, you know, businesses, even though they're brand focused, even though they're massive, and we see them as these big, these big sort of brands that, you know, shout at us, and we think, oh my God, they're untouchable. They all came and started from an idea that someone had, you know that they believed in it so much that they went and did it, and then it grew and grew and grew, and then other people's ideas came in. It's one person's idea, but you have to then take on other people's ideas too.
I love ideas. I love ideas, and to the point where our company mission constantly is to create and share ideas, because I was that guy who'd have like the notes app on my phone was full of ideas, and I'd jot stuff down and wake up in the middle of the night, ideas, and I'd always have these ideas like, this is going to be good, this is going to be good, and most of them, I'd say 95% of them, never came to anything.
No.
And it was like, there was a common theme across the businesses we were working with, where it was like, they'd have these amazing ideas, but it wouldn't happen because of like the safety of, I need to pay my bills, or I'm stuck in this thing that I hate, but I can't leave it because the money's too good, or whatever it is.
I think it's really hard. I mean, when Paul and I started out with Fascia Direct, we had no money coming in. I was already redundant, but on maternity. Well, I wasn't on maternity, but I was made redundant. We had a baby imminently due, and we only had limited savings, and we weren't entitled to anything from the government because we had savings. So our backs were up against the wall, you know, and everybody's story is different, which is fascinating to me. But
I love an origin story though.
Yeah.
That origin story is like so compelling.
But grit and determination makes you do it. So I remember at the time we still had our vending business, and that was actually, you know, cash rolling, you know, Fascia Direct, along with other partners that we got on board. You know, and again, I go back to, whilst the idea might be yours to start, you do need other people to help you along the way. And actually don't underestimate the people that are integral in your business. They may not be the people that are front and centre. They may not be the people that are voicing, you know, all the time. But if you give them an arena, a platform to speak and have a voice, you'll be amazed what they can come to the table with. Without Julia in my business right now, one, I'd be really snookered, because obviously we've had two people leave in quick succession. But actually what that's shown me is Julia's ideas, which I always knew she had amazing ideas, they've become, actually some of those have become really integral to what we're now doing.
So how important has Julia been?
Well, put it this way, she's quite a steadfast woman, but don't underestimate her quietness for her actually not being quite fierce in her values, and actually she really wants to make it work for herself and for the business. And it would have been very easy to lose 2 people out of our business of only 4 people. That's a lot, you know, to lose overnight.
It's like 50% of your workforce.
And the impact is quite imminent. You know, sorry, not imminent, it's not the right word. It's straight away. Immediate, yeah. Sorry. So from that point of view, she has taken on a lot, as in, you know, a lot of pressure, you know, and we talk very openly every single day about the business. So we pushed forward. It would be very easy to sit back on ideas and not actually implement them. It'd be very easy to say, well, we have to stop everything because we can't do it. And initially that did run through my mind, right? We have to just, you know, stop what we're doing and you know, slow down. But actually that doesn't work either. And I knew that. I think that was just a knee-jerk reaction from me. And very quickly I realised that, no, we have to keep forging forward with the ideas that we've got. And it's important for Julia to see that we are still progressing with the company. So the idea of the new sign was all Julia. I can't take any credit for that. That is all her. And I think it looks absolutely fantastic. A lot of the other design work that we do within the business, she is always a part of. Our interview process, she's a part of. She has to be, because we all need to work together and get on. You can't have a bad apple.
Relatively young as well. She's relatively like...
Yeah, like, she's 32. So, I mean, but she is actually an entrepreneur. Yeah. In the making.
Like, I mean, like, having worked with you guys for, what, a couple of years now, like, I really admire how, one, you manage it, but also the input that Julia has into it, because I agree, like, she's... And I say this as a compliment, she's quite hard to read, but 1, lovely, and 2, knows shit.
Yeah, but the one thing, don't underestimate her, because I think for Julia, her ability as a designer is incredible. And actually, she allows the customer to have their voice. It'd be very easy to say in a sales environment, she is a salesperson, but she's a designer. Yeah. And that is her passion, and that is what forges her forward with everything that she does. And what she does, she allows the client to have their space and to put that forward. And then she is constantly fact-finding on that discovery call. And when she delivers, the times when I'm there, which is a lot, the times I'm there with the customer there and they go, oh my God, wow. You know, now to me, now she has to obviously keep her face and not get too giddy over it, but I'm behind and I'm going, oh God. You know, and I love that for her. I love that for the client, because...
But it's creating win-wins all around.
Yeah, but for me, that's telling me that Julia is listened. And listening, as we know, is a very vital part of business.
Probably one of the most important.
Yeah, if you don't listen, you can't learn. Exactly. And if you don't learn, you can't create. If you don't create,
you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think Julia does that effortlessly. Yeah. But actually, she's very certain with what she wants her designs to be.
She's amazing.
She won't falter on, if she doesn't believe it doesn't look good, she won't do it. She said, I'm not putting my name to it. Yeah. You know, doesn't matter how much the customer wants it.
True story. I love that. I think you guys complement each other so well as a team. And I really admire it. And that's not me blowing smoke either.
No, but mine and Julia's relationship hasn't always been that easy. And in actual fact, when you have others in the business that don't have the same values and align themselves like you do, it can make a massive difference. Yeah. So actually, the changes that have happened have been, for Julia and I, the best thing.
I love that. I love it. Love it. So, how has it kind of changed the whole space over that time? Like, is it, because being in a creative space and working in marketing now and social media, like, I find myself at night trying just to watch videos to keep up with stuff, and things are constantly changing. Yeah. Is it the same in like the sort of, well, 1 on the high street, but 2 actually just in business in that environment?
I think you're right. It's both. I think things change all the time. There's a lot that you see, obviously, on the internet and on social media. For us, we are very governed by our suppliers, because if our suppliers don't do it, we're not going to just randomly go out there and get a new supplier, because actually to onboard a new supplier, it comes with a lot of hard work. It's not that easy. You'd have to put new displays in, with their product. You'd have to learn totally new codes. You'd have to learn all about their product. So we're reliant. We have 3 brands, obviously, at James James. So that's a lot. That's a lot for any designer, because you've got to learn 3 sets of codes, and they're all different, and they all do something slightly different. So it's not just a case of, they're all pretty colours and they all do a shaker, or they all do a slab door, or they all do veneer, acrylic, whatever it may be. Yeah, they all do that. But they all have their differences. So you wouldn't just bring on board somebody just because it looks, nice new shiny thing, let's get that. But our suppliers are pretty good, because they will be keeping ahead of the trends, but they will also be researching and monitoring and analysing to see what they think is going to work and be a top seller. Because at the end of the day, there's no point bringing something in that isn't going to sell, because it's going to flatten your market straight away.
I mean, that's what I think in the business now. It's like, we're doing well now, so do we do more of it at scale, or do we pivot and do other things and try and diversify it? Now, if you ask someone like Chloe, she loves the idea of multiple streams of income. Yeah, I'm a bit more risk averse to that, where I'm like, well, this is working. Let's just maximise this thing to the point where we can't literally do anymore. The problem
with maximising it until it's had its day is that, what do you do then? So I do understand where Chloe's coming from with having multiple income streams. To be fair. But what I would say is, you have to be careful to spread that too thin, because you don't want to confuse your market as to having too many that people don't understand what you are and what you are trying to achieve.
Well, this is the thing. I felt like I was in that position where I was kind of a mixture between a video guy, a marketer, content creator, social media company. But since we just transitioned to a social media business, people are just so much more clear. And I suppose it's the same for someone like Julia in your business. The clarity that she's got in your business allows her to do a job better. Whereas if it's kind of like wishy-washy and different days she's doing different things, it's like...
I think it's difficult, but not difficult, because we often get asked, do we do bathrooms? Do we do bedrooms?
What is it? Simple, but not easy.
Well, it's KISS, isn't it? Keep it stupid simple.
Yes.
Okay, so I think there's a lot to say about that, and there would be argument to that as well. But for us, we don't want to do bathrooms. That would mean our infrastructure would change again. We're not specialist in it. There's no point selling something that you're not specialised in. Bedrooms we will do, but we don't market it that we do bedrooms. We usually do that as an add-on for existing clients. And the reason we'll do it for existing clients is we've already developed that relationship, and because our suppliers do bedrooms, but we don't want to become a bedroom company, like a kitchen and bedrooms or bathrooms company. We are what we are, and we know it, and we're happy, and we are settled with that. And for Julia, going back to those trends and those fashions, we can always put ideas forward, and we can ask, because although we've got our suppliers, there are other door suppliers out there. You've got PWS, you've got Marpat, you've got other ones out there that we can buy the boards in through our manufacturers, to actually use. Well, in actual fact, there's only one manufacturer we can do that with. But that allows us to be able to see a little bit more of the market should we need to. But that manufacturer can actually use those boards because they've worked with them before. And that's where you have to work to your... strengths, I think, in that capacity. And also we will go with something that we think might be a slow burn. So we brought in porcelain a number of years ago, and it's only just starting to really come into its own now. But it hasn't dated. And that's the thing. We have to be careful of being too on trend. However, who knew that pink was going to be, a dusky pink was going to be a key. We've just done 2 kitchens. They've been accent colours, but they look phenomenal. So we do try and keep ahead of those things. Black is very, very in. Coffee is going to come in. And also caramel is going to be coming in. I'm quite excited. The coffee looks amazing.
Well, when we done the content for one of the kitchens a while ago, that you installed the elephant breath colour was I didn't even know elephant breath was a thing, but the elephant breath colour was absolutely epic.
It was, and it still is, and I think it will, that particular colour will be synonymous with itself, if you like, for a long time.
Like a unique
long
thing,
time.
yeah,
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the next one that you're going to video, I think that's going to take your breath away when you see it.
Oh, man,
because from the videos and photos that Julia's taken,
I actually really enjoy that, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean that is a very special kitchen, and I'm super excited to go out and see it.
Well, for a family of 4 like us now, like young kids, Becky's still fairly young to have kids, kids if she wanted.
She is young. Yeah. Not fairly young, Steve. Yeah. She is young.
Well, like I always said, I don't want kids after 40.
I don't think you should limit yourself.
Well, ask me again in 6 months.
That's because you got a newborn baby.
Yeah. So I'm never saying never, but like I'm 40 next year, which is fine. But Becky still got some years on her side to have kids, and I always said I don't kids. Anyway, in order for us to have more kids, we would need to move house.
Yeah.
So when I go into these kitchens, and I'm thinking, we might move house in the next 6 months to a year, or the next year and a half maximum. And these are considerations that I'm going to make. So slowly but surely, it's going from white noise on social media and looking around to I'm now the ideal client. Yeah. And I'm now you're in a prime position to go, right, now's the time. And you can really help me now.
Do you know what, though? It's not for me to tell you that now's the time. That has to be completely your decision. And one of the things that we pride ourselves on...
If I came to you one day and said, Maria, we're moving house.
Yeah.
We need to totally gut the kitchen out.
Yeah.
I want to sit down with you and Julie, and I really want to go through this and get it right.
Yeah.
That's coming quick, and I know that.
And I think that's a really good thing to have vision and have, a plan or an idea that's going to happen. I think having those short and long term goals are really good, and people talk about that all the time. But I think the one thing we pride ourselves with at James is allowing the customer, again, the space to not feel under pressure. So we have lots of people coming in, they're not quite ready. So my answer to that is when they come in, there's part of them that's expecting me to do the full sell. And don't get me wrong, I'm not going to turn a customer away, and I'm going to work that customer as best as I can. But you have to be able to read the situation.
Totally.
And if they come in and say, I'm just going to have a look, then you just make sure you give them the right information. So for me, it's about telling them, were you looking this year? Okay, no, we're not. Well, we maybe spring, not spring, maybe summer, maybe winter, whatever it may be. And the information that I give them is, okay, so work your way back. It's about a 12-week process. And they say, well, don't really know what that means. It's okay. So if you think about when your end result is, so say for you, it was December. You want December, that's when you want it. I mean, you'd be mad, but don't have December, have November. And then you say, it's going to be 6 to 8 weeks for the manufacturer, depending on what you pick. But then also allow yourselves a good 4 to 6 weeks for the actual planning. Now, we don't sell on the day. We don't promote selling on the day. We don't feel it's the right fit for us. I think there's a market for everybody, but that isn't us. So we just educate them by saying that, this is a big purchase. You need to make an informed decision. We're not going to rush you through the process. So the process will be, we will come out and do a home survey. We will do the full consultation discovery call with you. We will then invite you into the showroom to look at the perspectives. You will make changes. There will be lots of changes and revisions that you'll want to make naturally to make it more your kitchen. Which is obvious. They're going to want to do that.
Yeah.
And then we'll bring you in again to see the revisions that are done. I said, and then at that point, it's your decision as to where you want to take it next. So to do that process, it could be survey, presentation, second presentation. Then they might decide that they want to go ahead or they don't. And that takes 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So, and within that time, they're thinking, oh, we saw that, but how about if we try this? What about, and it's there, and then it becomes their kitchen.
It's almost going through like a qualification process of like, is this right? And your point. Yeah. And then actually that just shouts to me straight out from your actual lips, integrity, because you're not just going for that quick sale, right?
No, it'd be very easy, and there's a lot of satisfaction in the quick sale. But what I will tell you is what Julia's told me is that when she's worked for a previous high street retailer, the one thing, because she's a qualified interior designer, the one thing that she lacked in that company, and she had a great experience there, was having the full customer journey. And she said, so we'd see the customer on that day and then I'd never see it again. If I was lucky, the customer might send me photos or the fitter might send me photos. But because there was no relationship being built, there was no sort of like, the customer didn't feel obligated to send photos, and the fitter didn't have a relationship with Julia, so they didn't feel obligated or the necessity to send any photos. So in the end, it's like, well, I'm doing that, but actually it's transactional and it isn't relationship built. And so it was quite a while after Julia had started work, and she sort of said to me, she said, I've realised I wasn't a designer there. I was just somebody putting boxes into boxes. Yeah. And I went, yeah. I said, I think you probably did a bit more than that. And she said, no, I don't think I did. And actually, I think for her, that was quite a moment for her when she suddenly realised what I'm actually doing now is designing.
Yeah, I love that. And I totally empathise with that, because when I was at Lifetime delivering apprenticeships, I got into doing that because I'd built 2 fitness businesses, fairly successful. And then off the back of that, I was like, right, I'm going to qualify people into the industry now, because I've kind of ran the race doing that. And I'm going to go and pay it forward, essentially.
Yeah.
And when I got into the company, I'm nothing against Lifetime, they're a great company. It's got over 1,000 staff, like, you know, it's a great company. But it was a bums on seats exercise. And like the people who were coming through weren't getting that tremendous amount of value.
Yeah.
Because how can you in such a short time?
No, you can't. But what you also have to remember is there's space for everybody in this market. So for those high street retailers that do things differently, there's space for everybody. It's just understanding from the consumer point of view the differences you're going to get.
Yeah.
And when you walk into those showrooms, for the consumer, they know exactly what they're going to get. Yeah. When they come into James, I'm hoping that they know that they're going to get something different.
Yeah.
And that is the relationship. I mean, and for me, when Julia went out to see, just recently, she's done her home visits, and the home visit is where we take a lovely goodie bag full of things for the customer and their customer and care maintenance pack. And obviously we're there to see their finished kitchen.
Yeah.
And when Julia comes back and she says, oh my God. And this is like pretty much every single time she'll come back. For her, I've said to her, because it's, for the designer and an independent, you're doing a lot more. You don't have a separate processing department. You don't have somebody else checking your work. So it is all on you as the designer.
Yeah, totally.
So when you get the end result and you see the customer absolutely thrilled, you see it looking absolutely fantastic. The reward for her, as I said to her this week, it was all worth it. And she went, oh my God, it was so worth it. Yeah, it was so worth all of it. And this particular client had 3 separate areas that we were doing, and it was a lot.
Well, I've seen that when I've gone to some of the testimonials to get the content.
Yeah. I've
literally seen that. How happy they are, and the fulfillment you and Julia get out of that. So it's amazing, really. When I got made redundant from that job, Lifetime, one thing it did do was it really shaped my thinking of how I want to run the business now. So when I got made redundant, the business kind of started like in full flow.
Yeah.
And I really had a deeper understanding and a deeper vision of like, this is how I want it to be. Yeah. And it's kind of like a similar values to what you just described, in the sense that I want everyone who comes through the business to be our friend and have a good relationship with. It will not just like a tick box exercise where, you know, you're a number on a P&L sheet or whatever. Like, that's not what we're about.
No.
And I probably wouldn't have had that understanding unless I went through that process, if that makes sense.
And I think you're right. And I think all of our early stepping stones in our careers, you know, we learn to know what we do and don't like, and what aligns with us. We go back to that values and alignment and understanding what it is that we want, and we won't know that straight off, you know. So we need those situations where perhaps you're like, I didn't really totally enjoy that, and also you don't enjoy it until you come away from it, you know. In a lot of situations, I always knew that I didn't want to work as a Saturday job after I'd worked in Tammy Girl. You know,
Tammy Girl,
I know, isn't it? But what I did do is I'd worked prior to that in an estate agent. My sister got me the job for a Saturday job because she worked there full time, and I was in an estate agent, and I absolutely loved it. right? And I worked there for a really long time until I got made redundant. And then I had to find another job. And the only other job was working as a Saturday girl in a clothing shop.
Yeah.
You know, I also, you know, my first job out of college was working for Nationwide Trust, you know, and I got let go from that job because I was really bad at it.
I remember walking through the pyramids in Birkenhead on a Saturday, and I just vividly remember Tammy girl on the right hand side.
And it's funny, isn't it? Because I knew I didn't want to do that type of work. And it's nothing against it. It's just it wasn't for me. And actually, more of an office environment was something that I was well suited to, and it worked for me. I mean, obviously, I'm in a showroom now. But when we talk about pivoting, I look back and I think, oh my God, all the different sort of things that I've actually been a part of has shaped me to where I am now. And being given opportunities, you know, I haven't always gone and sought those opportunities. Some of them have actually come to me. But when we talk about pivoting in businesses, whether you do or don't like that word, some people don't like that word, but when you change income streams or you look for differences, just recently, we were approached by an estate agent, home estate agents in West Kirby, because they're putting a brochure together to give to clients, and they invited us. Did we want to be a part of that as only a small selection of people? And it was like, oh my, that's great for me. That is so flattering, you know, for a company to be a part of that. And you can do that based
on the values that you've got.
Yeah.
So that informs your decision making, right? Because if it was like one of them tick box exercise companies, then you might not have aligned yourself with that.
But also, if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have engaged you, because strangely enough, although we've known each other for a while, they asked to come in and do a video with us for their socials about the importance of having a decent kitchen in a house, you know, and what the resale value and what that does. And I already knew that it adds approximately 11 to 15% to your house value having a decent kitchen, but they already knew that value. So they'd come in and said, could we do that? And they did that video with Julia. And it was after that, and they had a great videographer. And it was after that I thought, oh God, we should really be doing it. Because we were doing it ourselves, but not doing very well. Because we were trying to do it organically and making it as though video, you know, doing that was going to be good.
Content is like there's two sides of it, right? So it's probably the most important form. The most attention is on socials right now, right? Like everyone's on social media, everyone. So content on socials is in and of itself one of the most important things we can do. But one of the most complex as well, because it is one of them things that constantly evolve. And if you're not, like, there's videos I done a month ago that I wouldn't put out now because it's just evolved so quick. Anyway, so you can have, like, we've got clients who do like lead gen sales, like, but then we've got other clients who do like employee advocacy. We do other clients who do brand building stuff. So there's a plethora of things you can get from that. But in and of itself, if anyone's watching this who is a business owner who's not putting a big emphasis onto content stuff, and I'm not just saying this as a business owner who does that stuff, just start. Essentially, just do something, because even if you're building like a great example is Julia. With this, because you've got a business brand in James. Now under that you've got yourself and Julia. Now I would argue that if by building yours and like by doing stuff like this, by doing content, by getting Julia out there more facing people, you're building your personal brand, and that makes the business brand stronger.
Absolutely. I mean, Julia's already got a presence herself on socials anyway. She's got her own thing going on, and it's great. You know. Now
a lot of business owners actually get scared about that. Because what they think is, the mindset of a big business owner is, if, I don't know, Joe Bloggs, who's an apprentice, builds his personal brand up so big, that benefits the company.
Absolutely.
They're going to get too big and leave, and then it's going to...
Do you know what? Naturally, people are going to leave. You can't stop it. And what you need to do is embrace it and actually be open with people and say, I know at some point you're going to want to move on. You're going to want to grow within your role, or you might go on and do something totally different. And you need to not be scared of that, but you also need to find out from your employees what is it their long-term goals are. Those appraisals that everyone hates and loves all at the same time are massively important. If you don't do them, you're going to miss a trick, because you're going to assume that by the fact that your colleagues don't say anything to you means that they're happy. You don't know that. They might not be saying anything because they don't believe they can make a change for themselves within your business. So the important thing is to keep that open communication going and constantly being aware. Like, I'm very aware at the moment of the pressures on Julia. So we're constantly having those conversations. 1, her environment. 2, her breaks. 3, is she getting value from it? Is she overwhelmed? You know, all of those sort of things. So we're constantly making sure that, you know, I'm aware and she's aware that we're in touch with all her clients. And obviously, is she okay?
Yeah.
At the end of it.
Fair play to you for understanding that as well, and being aware of that.
I think you need to be, because your colleagues are your lifeblood that work in your business. Without them, it can be difficult. That doesn't mean anybody's indispensable. I'm not indispensable. You know, nobody's indispensable, but you need to value them, because if you don't value them, then they're going to have no sense of value for themselves. And if they don't value themselves, they're not going to give the best for themselves or for you.
My first business coach, Peter Russell, great guy, in his 70s now, semi-retired. His son Ben has took the business on.
Yeah.
He's got like 400 staff, multi-millionaire. And in the first career coaching session he done with me, I remember vividly, he said to me, a good coach or mentor should enable the person who they're coaching or mentoring to be better than them at some point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you're passing it on, right?
Yeah.
So, in theory, at some point in my life, I should be better than what Peter's done, because he's taught me that stuff.
Yeah.
It's like Tiger Woods in golf, right? No one's really going to be better than him at golf, but he has a coach who helps him become better. I
mean, I think that's a really good ethos.
Another thing he said to me, sorry to interject, another thing he said to me is, the thing that you need the most, the thing that you help people with the most is the thing you need the most help with.
Yeah.
And that always stuck with me.
And I would agree with that, because I can be very good at saying to other people what is a really good idea, and not necessarily following it myself.
Yeah.
And I don't know why we do that, but we do.
Yeah. Like, the thing I need the most help with is social media, because that's the thing I help people with the most.
Yeah.
The thing that, like, Chloe's another good example where we work with. She does remote sales, and she's helping women with sales and closing and some social media stuff. But that's the thing that she needs the most help with herself. So when she has a coach, it's going to be around how to become better sales. And you almost become a coach who believes in coaching.
Yeah. And that's the funniest thing, isn't it? Is the fact that we still have self-doubt. You know, whatever you want to call it. You know,
I think there's like a very small percentage of people, and when I say small, I mean probably a handful in the whole world, who are absolutely original. Like, you look at like Bezos and Amazon, or Elon Musk or something like that. They create stuff from scratch.
Yeah.
But there's always, like, in 99% of cases, there's always someone who's done your thing before.
Yeah, but there always will be. And I think that's the interesting thing, is that you're taking an idea and you're changing it, and you are. It's somebody will say it was like inventing the wheel, but it isn't, because there are already stones there. It's just someone chose to push it. And that's what you've got. You understand about it, is the fact that circle wasn't invented.
If there was a business with like 95% of it was amazing, but there was 5% that you change, you could recreate that business and change the 5% and be a totally different looking business.
Yeah, absolutely. But in actual fact, all you need to do is keep on pushing forward with 1% at a time.
I love that.
You just 1% at a time change something each week that you didn't do the week before, and you are at some point going to see a massive change. So I think the fact is, people sort of come in and say you've got to do this massive, great, big change. You haven't. You've just got to say, right, what's working, what isn't, what do I want to change? As long as you don't sit still and have that stale idea, you know, and it becomes the stale idea because you're not doing anything with it. As long as you sort of like actively try and go forward. Most entrepreneurs have ideas that you start with, and then you realise that they're not going to work for whatever reason at all. Julia's confidence will be there. If you remember right in the beginning, we had the idea we wanted to be really organic, and we wanted to be, it's all us, you know, and we brought you in and you did the coaching. But to be really honest, we couldn't apply it because we just didn't have the direction for it.
Yeah.
Right. And the time.
Yeah.
And so the girls, obviously, they used to sort of go, oh, God, she wants to do that videoing again, you know. And I'd be, come on, girls, you know, like that. But in reality, what it actually was me. I was actually the block there, because it was the boss trying to force them to do something they were really uncomfortable with. However, when we introduced you and then Chloe at a later date to come in and do that, it wasn't me doing it anymore, and I was part of it.
I love it.
So I think that was the difference. It was actually doing just a little change, and also having somebody take fresh eyes and look at it and go, that doesn't look good. But Julia had actually been saying it for a while, and I was reluctant because I'd been burnt before.
Julie is very visual. Like Julia and Chloe, to be fair, that's why I like working with Chloe, because she is very visual, and she picks up like from like a male man, I think, coming at it with. Whether we like it or not, subconscious bias towards our favourite things. Like I like sort of, I don't know, documentary style content and stuff like that. Some people might not like that. Some people might like the more like flashy edit. Some people might like more simplistic, and that's just personal preference, right? So to have that like other set of eyes on it, where we go, that might not work for this and this might not work for that, both ways, and have that sort of like two-way conversation about it is great, I think.
But also you need to trial and error things, because you don't know what's going to work. I mean, there have been some videos that have gone out that have really absolutely smashed it, and there are others that we think, oh, that's going to be really good, and actually it's flopped. And you're thinking, why did that happen? Well, it was such great,
I've got a point on this. When I got into videos, I would spend...
Why do I feel this is going to have some sort of weird ending?
I used to spend like half a day, and I'd create this one piece of content, and it'd be amazing. And it's so valuable, and I'd put so much effort into it, and I'd make it amazing, and I'd make sure every single thing in this video was just spot on. I'd be like, this is going to help so many people, and people are going to take so much away from this, and they're going to go, and it's going to change their life, and this and that. And then put it out, it'd get like one view and like 2 comments, and it'd be like me mum comments on it and saying, oh, this is amazing. And I found that with like a lot of businesses, right? Like they put a lot of effort into it, and then nothing happened. So they kind of went, doesn't work. And then on the flip side of it, you'd have like this poorly edited, stupid thing that was basically like attention seeking. That lasted 3 seconds, had no value to anyone, that would go viral. And I was like, how is this even possible?
I know. It's
so
mad,
we lived in this,
it?
but we were in that at this point in time, which was, best part of 10 years ago. We looked at, we were in information wasn't as readily available to us as what it is now. So information was quite valuable. So when you give people like information, I thought, oh, so valuable, like how-to content, top 3 ways to do X, Y, Z. But now information's become more of like a common resource. It's not as scarce anymore. No. So we can go on ChatGPT, we can go on YouTube, we can go on Google, we can find this stuff at our fingertips. So we don't pay for information anymore. Information's become almost not worthless, but like kind of like
I wouldn't say
but people, like, you're not paying me for information because you've got information available. You pay me for
I'm paying you for your skill.
Implementation.
That your skill is what I'm looking for, and your ability to do it. Now, if you'd have chunked up what you've done, your words, not mine, chunking up. I remember this, right? If you chunked up that video that you did that was absolutely awesome, you probably would have got more views, because as we know, people, it's like split seconds now, isn't it, that people want to see.
It's kind of like the funnels flipped on its head. So you used to have like the awareness funnel, which was like how to do this, didn't it? And then you funnel them down into like a sales thing. But now it's kind of like, it's like an attention economy almost, where it's like, right, how can I just get, by any means, I just need attention.
And I need it now. I need it right now, right this second. I need it now. And to be honest, I'm one of the biggest people to want everything now, because I'm a problem solver. So I want it sorted now. Somebody's got an answer, right? I'm doing that. Let's do that. And sometimes with that, you've not given yourself time to think about it. Julia's very different to me. She might bring a not a problem, but something that needs to be overcome. And I'll be like, right, well, would this work? Well, yeah, it potentially could work. Okay, well, let's just do it. And she goes, what? I need to process it first. And I don't always give her the time to, and that's something I do.
Would you class yourself as a risk taker?
Moderate risk taker.
Yeah, because I feel like I'm quite risk averse.
I'm not risk averse, but I'm not a risk taker. My husband was a risk taker.
Was he?
All the time.
So he'd just be like, let's do it and see what happens.
And in the majority, it always worked. And I loved him for that. He was brilliant at just like, let's just do it. And I'd go, oh my God.
What's Roy like now?
Roy does like to take a risk, in fairness. He's
Is he kind of just like, of the mindset, let's do it and see what happens?
No. So he might take it. I would say it was an informed risk. So he's somebody that likes to do a lot of research on something, especially if it's a big money item. And I'm not talking about whether you buying a new kitchen or doing groundworks or anything like that. I'm talking about even in the industry that we're in, if there's something that's coming to I suppose, within his platform or within his environment, and it on paper looks like a really good idea, he will just research it, because if it's a high ticket item and it's got to be implemented, there are two different things. So if it was a case of, let's just say it was a car, and let's just say, for instance, it's an 80 grand car. If he liked it, he'd get it. And it's not necessarily a risk, but
it's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So on that side of it, he wouldn't probably think about it. If it was a big holiday and it was a lot of money, he wouldn't think about it. If it ticked all the boxes, it'd be like, yeah, I'm happy with that, I'm doing it. Yeah. So when I talk about risks, my husband was a little bit more, shall we say, let's just do it. We're doing that. We're doing that now. Oh, okay, but we haven't. Yeah, don't worry about the infrastructure. We'll sort that out afterwards. Yeah. And I loved him for that.
We'll figure out the logistics after the fact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Roy wouldn't necessarily do that. Yeah. He'd be looking at, well, how's that going to affect me in the long run.
Yeah. I think that's kind of like my kind of take. I'm more aligned with Roy in that sense.
But he loves a challenge. He absolutely loves a challenge. Give him a problem and he will resolve it. Without a shadow of a doubt.
I love that.
He is great at managing issues that arise. His I mean, I think I'm quite a good troubleshooter, and Roy takes it to a different level.
Really?
Yeah, because he's been in business.
Proper operator.
Yeah, because he's been in business for so long.
Is it again? I don't know this, so I'm asking the question. Is he quite long in the tooth to it now, where he's kind of like, right, I've been doing this for so long that I can navigate these things really well?
Yeah, to a degree. But what is quite unique about Roy is that, where most people probably of his age would be looking to slow down, he's just looking to change. So he's always seeing things as to, one, how's this going to work if I do that? So it's the whole thing of affect and change. So if I do something here, how's that going to affect, and will it benefit in the long run?
Yeah.
And not just himself, but everybody in that environment. So I think it would be too easy to say, is it because he's long in the tooth? Yes, his experience, you can't buy that, and nobody's experience can be bought. When they've done that, it amazes me with a lot of people in our environment, the stories they've got, and you're just like, wow. I mean, you've done all of that, and I look at Roy's story, and it is a story, and it's one of it's very, not very unique, but also for him, I think, one of longevity. So his business has been around for 57 years, and it was
so cool.
And it was a name that has started as a completely different business with a different owner, and it didn't have anything to do with kitchens from when he was 14, and then he's brought it and changed that company many times in its evolvement to be where it is. So I mean, I'm very proud of him. He's very under the radar with it all. He wouldn't be shouting out about it. He's just there. But when I look at what he's achieved and what he's done for his community, it's massive.
I love it. It's so cool. That's so cool. And it's inspiring for someone like me, who's coming through almost, to see that, because you hear about all these like sort of millionaires who are like 85 and like the race is kind of run, they stop working and they kind of die 6 months later because they've lost that sense of like urgency and purpose.
I think it's self-worth, isn't it? I mean, if you are that brand, you've then got to do a really good job on identifying what's going to be next. And I think that's important. With my late husband, I will never know what that will have been, but his energy and what he achieved within his 38 years was pretty phenomenal in my view.
Absolutely.
As to, we achieved it together, but a lot of that drive was from him and his self-belief.
And maybe it is from what he said, maybe it is from that sort of like just go get it sort of mindset.
Yeah, and I think so. I think it was just he believed in himself, But then I see that in my daughter with her business.
Yeah, I see it in you, to be honest with you. Like, I see it now. Like,
I think you take it from a lot of different people. You know, both my mum and my dad had their own businesses. You know, so, and I look at it from that sort of point of view, and you forget, you know, where you learn certain things. My mum had her own hairdressing business, and she was a childminder. It was her own business at home, and we sometimes maybe don't give enough, I suppose, worth to that because they were at home businesses. But actually, when you consider that you've got to run a home and run a business within that, that's actually quite something.
Yeah.
And then I look at my dad, and he had his building business, and you know, he started as a paint and decorator, had his building company, then and then went back to paint and decorating. And my dad only gave up work. My dad's 80. My dad only gave up work when he was 76.
So that's amazing.
You know, so when I look at, you know, the fact that they, through recessions, through hardships, through lots of different things that hit you in life, they still prevailed. So they just weren't shouty about it because things were different then. Everyone was just getting on and doing.
I think that's a really good point. Like, you don't need to be sort of in the spotlight or famous to be, like, we live in this social media age now.
Yeah,
where
it's different.
Everyone's chasing views. Everyone's chasing attention. Everyone wants
But are they? Because
this is the thing. So I wonder this as well, because you look at it and go, like, all the most successful people I know haven't got big followings.
I would say what people are looking for is to have awareness, to be relevant, and to make sure that they're not, you know, behind the times. Yeah. I don't go out there and I don't look for the views. What I look at is what we're doing having an effect, as in, are we getting people interested? That's a very different thing.
Yeah.
You know, to chasing views. That's a hard thing to kind of, like,
it's a hard thing to kind of, what's the word? It's a hard thing to, I can't think of the word off the top of my head. It comes to me in a second. But it's kind of like a measure. It's not like a tangible, measurable like thing where you go, over the course of 6 months, you can say, with Facebook ads, for example, you can say, right, I put this much money in and I've got this much money out.
And you can't always do that when you're running an awareness campaign that we're doing all the time, really, for James, because we don't have a point of sale button where you can press and go.
But even stuff like this podcast, right? If we put this out and it gets 1,000 views, how can you tangibly extract, like, the financial benefits of my business or your business?
But are you doing it for a financial benefit?
Actually, no. But does the finance come as a byproduct of it?
I'm sure it does, and I would say that, I don't know about yourself and your business, but, you know, for James, I think what we're looking for is one of the main goals is to direct traffic to the website. Yeah. Now, we have had it direct to the website. We've had more leads through it. Now, other people will be looking at it and maybe looking at our stats going, that is awful. But actually, compared to where we were and where we are now, the social media is clearly doing its job. Now, what we have to do next is get our website, because we need to change all the logos and we need to do that. So it's ever evolving. And I think everybody needs to understand that what worked yesterday and what works tomorrow is not going to work today.
Totally.
And that's the important thing, to not get too caught up in all the stats. And actually, Roy and I had this very conversation yesterday about who's, you know, his social media. And I said, the thing is, I said, it needs a lot of input. I said, it needs all the staff on board with it. And actually, it took me a long time to get the staff on board with it.
Totally. So I found it really interesting what you said before. Is like, people in our positions who are like sort of business leaders, owners, entrepreneurs, ambitious people, even maybe even young people who've got big ambitions. You got to be a certain type of person to want to actually do it, right? Like, I don't think I really realised this till I had kids, in the sense that I used to get it all the time where people were kind of saying to me, I do it for my kids, and you know, I work so hard because of my kids. And when I did have kids, I realised that I want to create a great life for them, and I want to do, you know, want to provide them with good experiences. But actually, if I'm really, really honest and totally transparent, I'm not doing it for my kids.
No, you're doing it for you because you believe that you're doing something different, and that you're doing something that actually is of value, and that you are.
How can I contribute something to the world to make it a little bit better than how I left it? The how I found
Well, that's a different thing again, because how we portray ourselves within that, you could be a money-hungry entrepreneur that only thinks about money and doesn't really care about giving back.
Yeah.
And there are many of those, I'm sure.
Well, there's ways. There's a lot, like what we do. There's less ethical ways that I can make a lot more money. And I could promise people things, and I could do, like, there's some stuff going on with some Facebook ad stuff at the moment, which I'm like not in our business, but I'm hearing stuff, and I'm like I could never be aligned with that. But it's a quick way of making a load of money.
Yeah, and I get it, and do you know what? We shouldn't be too harsh to criticise, right? Because if people need to earn money and they need to earn it quick, and they found a way of doing it, that's not wrong either.
No, it's not.
Okay, so ethical is a totally different thing. So we talk about, if people win on the lottery and they win 17 million, say, we maybe sit there and go, oh, it's all right for them, isn't it? We don't, our initial, and I would hope my initial reaction is, bloody hell, that's amazing. Good luck to them. It's all about being in the right place at the right time, and they chose to take their ticket.
Do you think that is like a person thing, like comes down to, or like a situational thing almost? Like I've been playing the lottery for years, I've not won a bean, and then this person plays it once and wins 17 million.
But that's just the luck of the draw, and that's the whole point of a lottery. You just never know, and that's why it's exciting. That's why playing bingo is exciting, right?
Yeah.
It is.
Totally.
You go to bongo bingos, for instance, right? And everybody wants the inflatable dinosaur, or they want the
or Jay McConville solo.
or actually, if you get the Cocoa Pops, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Are you going to spread it across the crowd, and it builds because it's exciting, right? And it's actually you've not won because you got the Cocoa Pops, but there's so now cool. The fact that I'm talking about it says that what a great way, to brand your business by doing something crazy.
It's a fantastic awareness piece.
Absolutely, and I think those, and if it stays with you and it brings a smile to your face, then that company are doing they're doing things well, aren't they?
100%.
And I think that's the point. Is it's a feel-good factor. It's why do we keep on looking at the kitty cat videos, I
feel like that's it's like being socially on point. I feel like Jay McConville does a really good job of this.
Yeah.
He's socially so on point. Yeah. He knows where to be. He knows.
But he's being true to himself as well.
And I think that's a really valid point. It's like, in a world where everyone's trying to be something, like being like your authentic thing, your authentic self, and staying true to your own values is like super cool, and being socially savvy and socially aware is like a skill in itself.
It is, and we don't need to overthink it.
Yeah.
We put the right people in the right positions to help us because we don't know everything. I use Chloe, I use Zoe, and I use other people to help me achieve what I'm trying to do. And I'm very aware that I can't put a monetary figure to it as such. I can tell you that we're getting more, awareness because I can see the engagement and things like that. So I look at the stats. Do I analyse it every single day? Absolutely not. There's no point. But equally, I've got somebody else, Hyena Marketing, doing the SEO part of it. And they do a great job, and they're just keeping an eye on it in the background, just checking that all the keywords and everything is still being relevant. And I get those stats.
I love it.
And so I'm aware of where we're at, and then I ask the questions where necessary. And that's the point. You keep on, you plug away at it in that fashion. But are we going to get it right all of the time? No. Are all of our ideas going to work? No. But as long as we keep moving forward, we're achieving.
Yeah.
It might not be the grand, big achievements, that end up giving you those multi-million pounds. But at the end of the day, is that what we're trying to achieve, or are we all trying to achieve a decent lifestyle where we can make our own decisions, be independent, and give good choices for other people, and actually make other people a part of it?
Everything starts with an idea.
It does, and I tend to think that I would rather have a business that I work in with people that have the same mindset as myself, but equally do feel valued and feel that they're a part of something, than just a cog in the wheel that just doesn't really feel like you're achieving much.
I love it so much. We're going to round this off shortly, but one thing I wanted to touch on is, I think this has happened like across the board, but definitely I've noticed in the Wirral and Liverpool areas, is female-led businesses, female entrepreneurs, have created such like a supportive and inclusive community for each other actually over the last few years. Even the last 3 years actually, like I've seen it just totally evolve.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on how that's sort of evolved and where do you see it going with it being International Women's Day on Friday?
Well, that was a loaded question, wasn't it?
Yeah, totally. I love a loaded question.
It's great to see that women are pushing themselves out there into the spotlight. I do think there is a particular bond with women, you know. Not that there isn't with men. It's great to see how far we've come, although I don't think we've come far enough as far as where we are. But the strides that are being made by those women pushing themselves out there to understand that women in business, collaborating with women in business and forming groups within business that are women only, they are creating actually something that is quite empowering. And we're realising now as women that not only do we have a voice, but actually we've got quite a lot of power, and we're challenging those stereotypes. We're challenging women to be, you know, more upfront with themselves and giving them that space to believe in themselves, because that stereotypical, you know, thing where, you know, the men bring the wages in and they are the ones that, you know, forge forward and make good careers in their life. Those stereotypes are still there, unfortunately, but we are making waves going forward. And I think for those women that are deciding to collaborate with other women, that's the exciting bit.
Love it. I love that. Well, thank you for that. No, I really appreciate it. I've really enjoyed this conversation. If someone wants to come into contact with you, or find you, or get a new kitchen, or just be part of something that you're doing, what's the best place they can find you?
Well, best place, obviously, we're in James Kitchens in West Kirby, but you can find us on our website, www.jamesjameskitchens.net. Obviously, you can give us a call, or you can find us on our socials, which is just James Kitchens on Facebook and on Instagram.
Perfect. Thanks so much for your time. I don't take it for granted, and I think a lot of people get a lot of value from this.
Can I ask you a question?
Oh, this doesn't usually happen, but go on.
So, as you've brought to the table about International Women's Day, which is this Thursday, yes, the 7th of March, so what is your feelings on International Women's Day?
I think that since I've been doing this business, I think I would have no hesitation, and it's a bit different. It's a bit of a weird one for me, because I've never, since I've started this business, I've worked with women and I work alongside women. So I see the absolute value that women bring to business. And I don't see, like, it's like a meritocracy in a sense that, like, I want people who can do a really good job for me, whether that's a woman or whether it's a man or whether it's you're gay or black or whatever, like whatever ethnicity background, whatever you're from. Like, I think it really doesn't matter. And I think some of them barriers are being broken down, like you said, about, like, women should be at home, you know, cooking the dinner and doing the washing and nurturing nature and all that kind of stuff. I don't really buy into that now, and I think that is changing. And what I'm seeing, definitely locally, is, you know, a community of women who are business leaders are doing really, really good stuff. Like, there was an event yesterday that I couldn't get to, unfortunately, but, you know, the majority of the speakers there are women.
Yeah.
And it's just great to see. And I look to collaborate with men, women, everything. So I think even in the 3, 4, 5 years that we've been doing this, I've seen that change massively across the board. Is there room for improvements? Of course, like anything. But it is improving, and that's a cool thing. And, like, all we can strive for really is progress, right?
Yeah, but if you think about what's been achieved in the last 100 years, it's not really that. It's not huge strides compared to what happened in the previous 100 years for men. So
would you say over the course of like 100-year time horizon, in the past 10 years, more progress has been made than the say previous 20 years?
No,
I don't know.
I don't think I would say that. I think
because I don't know the answers to these questions. To be fair.
I mean, I haven't got a definitive answer on it. But what I would say is, no. I think women are becoming a lot more savvy.
I think the barriers to women are still stereotypical.
Yeah, because we're born into that. We're born into it. It's there, and it's no one's fault as such. It's going to take a long time for those to be really brought down. I think there are some individuals out there, men and women, that are really, really forging forward to make a difference. However, you've got to think of the majority and what the thought process is out there. I'm very fortunate that I had parents that didn't have. They just wanted the best for us, kids, and they were always there. They never really put their opinion forward whether you should or shouldn't do it. They'd give advice, don't get me wrong. But when I moved away, for instance, I know it broke my dad's heart, but my mum was for like, you just follow, do what you think is the right thing to do. And I hope that I've done that with my kids. I mean, they're both adults now. Molly's got her own business. She's been doing that for 3 years. And she's only 24.
It's really enlightening for me to see that though, like, and hear like a successful woman like yourself say that, because I might be a bit ignorant to it in the sense that in coming into this business there will be no barriers for women. Like, I know that, but it doesn't mean to say they're not there. No,
I mean, I worked in the I alluded to the fact that I worked for an electrical wholesaler for 3.5 years, and I had a great time there. It doesn't mean to say that I didn't feel like I had to keep on making my voice heard, because out of 80 women in the region that I worked in, there was only 2 at that point. It might have changed.
2 employees that were women and 17 women,
Yeah, and so actually going into those environments, I had to be really strong. I had to be quite forthright. I had to stand my ground, to have my voice heard. And I don't get me wrong, as I said, I had 2 supportive managers that were fantastic. But actually in those branches, there was still a lot of stereotypical behaviours still going on. So for me, I can say that with all authority. I hope that has changed over the last
100%.
few years. But I also would say, for people like my daughter's age group, for her genre, she's now employing women within her business. She is allowing a safe space for women like her. And I think one of her statements that she says for her business is, become a boss. Become your own boss and earn $4,000 a month.
If we flip that round, would her business be open to men going into her business?
She's in the beauty industry, so that is down to.
There.
But she did have a male hairstylist in there. That's
amazing. Yeah. So it can work both ways.
So and she did have him there, and what that gave him was a platform that he then went on to do his own business again. So and that's what Molly's trying to achieve with her business, is to allow a space for women to come in as self-employed women, to have that nurtured environment where you're not alone. But that then gives them that ability to rise up and have the confidence to go out and do what Molly's done.
So cool. So cool.
Yeah.
If you're not already, go and follow at James Kitchens on Instagram, Facebook. Follow Maria. I'm going to tag all of them in. I'll put the links in the video description. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. And this is not